Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Monday, July 11th, 2016. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. The United States Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs, Victoria Nuland, visited Tirana yesterday, bringing a new formula to help the parties reach compromise for the judicial reform. Aura News has discovered the essence of the new proposal, which seems to be a merging of both parties' stances. The proposal maintains the establishment of an ad hoc commission that will vote for the members of constitutional institutions and will also include the internationals for evaluating and preparing the list of judges and prosecutors involved in the vetting process. Sources say that the new formula guarantees unbiased checking of the judges and prosecutors thanks to the strict monitoring by the Commission, which is made of majority members from the majority, the opposition, and the international experts. The international experts will not only have a monitoring role. According to the new proposal, the international experts can also disqualify candidates. During her visit, Nuland was asked about the role of the internationals in this process, but she did not provide any details in hopes that the parties will reach agreement over this issue. The Prime Minister declared later that he agrees with the new proposal, while the DP chairman has asked for 2 days' time to review the proposal in detail. The Democratic Party chairman gathered the Democrat members of the Ad Hoc Commission on Judicial Reform today to discuss the proposal so that they can have a clear decision by Wednesday. The majority gave strong signals today that it accepts the U.S. proposal for the judicial reform. Prime Minister Edi Rama reviewed the formula proposed by the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs yesterday. The Prime Minister gave an assurance that the Internationals project will be supported by the majority. I only want to say that this is a historic reform and a historic significant importance for the future of the country. This is not a reform of only one party. It is the reform of a country that aims to be a member of the European Union. I can give you assurance that the red line is not drawn by me, but by the EU and by the US, which have the vetting process in its basis. We agree on any approach that guarantees the opposition's participation, declared Prime Minister Rama. When he was asked by an Aura News journalist whether the U.S. proposal overshadows the role of the internationals in monitoring the process for election of judges and prosecutors, the Prime Minister had this to say: I do not know to whom you refer when talking about overshadowing. The Socialist Party and majority will vote on a reform supported by EU and US. You can be sure that the EU and US do not violate the essence of the reform. The proposed formula supports the request the DP has been asking for, so I do not understand why they do not happily agree. Earlier, the chairman of the Ad Hoc Commission on Judicial Reform also showed support for Nuland's proposal. Mr. Jafai also clarified the Socialist Party's position regarding the critics of the Socialist Movement for Integration over the lack of information from its ally concerning the negotiations for the reform. He added that confidentiality is needed when there are negotiations and that the SMI's vice chairman has been active in the meetings of the Ad Hoc Commission. Prime Minister Rama headed a meeting of the Socialist Party parliamentary group today, where it is learned that the Prime Minister informed the MPs about the meeting with Nuland. It is also learned that the Prime Minister declared that the U.S. proposal is really close to the majorities. The prosecution will question the Minister of Interior, Samir Tahiri, about the denunciation made at his address by the High Council of Justice. Minister Tahiri is charged with threatening the judge, Aryan Aliaj, who signs the security measure to suspend the General State Police Director from duty and house arrest for 2 of his subordinates. The prosecution will also question Judge Aliaj. The Minister of Interior and the judge are expected to be called within this week. It is learned that the Central Authority of the Prosecution has sent a letter to several television stations asking for footage of the statements the minister spoke against the judge. The decision of the prosecution comes after the prosecution had started the investigations about the High Council of Justice's lawsuit against the Minister of Interior. The denunciation is being investigated by the Prosecution General now that its verification is complete. Meanwhile, the security measures given for the state police and 2 other police officers accused of abuse of power were rejected by the Court of Appeal. The Democratic Party has asked Parliament to establish an inquiry commission to investigate the tapping scandal. The Democrat MP Flamur Noka officially submitted the request in Parliament and declared that the aim of this investigation is to review the facts, which he feels will testify to the state police having used the tapping equipment. The Parliamentary Ad Hoc Commission will review the facts, evidence, and circumstances which will show the way the equipment was administered and its use by the state police. We believe that a comprehensive investigation and discovery of the truth is in the interest of Albania and Albanian citizens, said the DP MP. According to the Democratic MP, a comprehensive investigation will reveal the truth and discover those responsible. A comprehensive parliamentary investigation will reveal all responsible parties, he said. Illegal tapping is the top of Edi Rama and Samir Tahiri's list of crimes in the last 3 years. This is not an issue of only the opposition. Revelation of the truth about this issue is a challenge for the country. Do we support being ruled by a gang or by the law? Do we support Rama's interests or the Constitution's? Do we support gang interests or human rights? Do we support the mafia state of Edi Rama or the rule of law, said Noka. After the Constitutional Court's decision to repeal toughened measures for illegal possession of firearms, the Minister of Justice presented some changes to the criminal code at the Parliamentary Security Commission, which will soften the penalties for illegal possession of firearms. The Minister of Justice raised his concern that the frequent interventions in the criminal code have created a vacuum in its implementation. The Minister of Justice announced that the Ministry of Justice has set up a work group for drafting a new criminal code based on the best European practices. Frequent interventions in the criminal code were also criticized by the Socialist Movement for Integration member of the Commission, Luan Rama. This is the 17th intervention in the criminal code in 3 years of governance. This testifies to lack of vision. Initiatives have been taken in rejection of the Constitution. Changes have been made by other ministries, avoiding the Ministry of Justice, he said. The proposed changes by the Ministry of Justice significantly soften the punishment for illegal possession of firearms compared to the measures of 2 years ago, which were considered as unconstitutional by the court. The criminal code provides a punishment up to 2 years in prison for illegal possession of firearms in-house, 4 years in prison for illegal possessions of explosives, 7 years for the illegal possession in vehicles or public spaces, and up to 10 years for production, selling, or buying of illegal firearms. The chairman of the Security Commission and the Party for Justice and Unity MP asked the Minister of Justice to ask the President for an amnesty for those persons who have been sentenced based on the old criminal code. A recent report of the MIAFT movement indicates that most of the central public institutions do not apply the right to information and consultation law. Over the period of a year, the movement has asked for information from 230 institutions, mainly concerning economic activity, and has received a response from only 98 of them. According to MIAFT, 42% of institutions have responded, and many of them have given superficial information without responding to the question the movement had asked them. Although it is a legal obligation, informing citizens or consultations with them on the activities of institutions are not being implemented. This concern was raised earlier by the citizens or various non-governmental organizations. That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.